Hey, what's up, everybody? Unrested here, and I'm kind of sweaty. I'm kind of frazzled right now. That's because I've got a bit of a story for you that happened today, and this is not normally how I approach these. I don't come across as very emotional and stuff, but I'm a little bit emotional because of what just happened. I guess I'll just start from the top of how this day kind of turned into craziness. I woke up at 6:45 at normal time. That's early in the morning for me, and got my kids ready for school. Headed out the door. Was working my job already at probably around, I don't know, like 10, 9, 9, 10 o'clock. Oh yeah, about 10 o'clock. Yeah, because I had just gotten back in. So yeah, I was at work at about 10 o'clock, and I get a call from my youngest son's kindergarten, and he's fallen off of the monkey bars. He's hit his head, and now he's thrown up twice since that's happened. So right away, I just feel like panic well up in me. I'm keeping cool because I'm at my job. I'm not freaking out in front of everybody, but I'm on the phone there, and I'm like, okay, has somebody called an ambulance, or like what are we doing? They're like, well, actually, like, could you come pick him up, and we advise you like to take him to the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like leaving now. So like literally, uh, I put down the phone, I hang up, I go into my boss's office and just say, look, I've got an emergency. My son's just fallen, and he's throwing up, and he might have a concussion. And he's just like, yeah, of course, yeah. Like, head on out the door. We've got everything covered. You just go. And, that's awesome. I'm really lucky about that. And I'm just like, I'm nail biting the whole way there. I can't get there fast enough. Uh, I walk as fast as I possibly can to get to my train. I'm almost jogging. I get on the train, and the train ride is the longest train ride I've ever had home, because my kid goes to school like really close to my house. That's why I say train ride home, because I'm heading to the same place my house is. And I'm just like, I can't believe how long these train stops are taking. These train stops are 2 minutes each. Like each one on there is about 2 minutes. But I I hear the first train station called, and I've got like seven more to go, and I've only made it to the first one, and I'm just like, I've been on in here an hour already. Like, what's going on? Like, why is this going so slow? And I'm just like, all right, gotta calm down. You gotta pull it together. And I'm starting to read stuff on my phone while I'm on my way there, which is the worst idea ever about like medical conditions. If someone has a concussion, if the skin's split in the back of the head, and they're throwing up and they're dizzy and they can't, remember things correctly, and they're crying, it's a sign of like brain hemorrhaging. It's a sign that the brain has actually hit the side of your skull so hard that your brain is hemorrhaging now, and like you could have buildup of blood in the brain. All different types of things can go wrong. I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on YouTube, so I just read what I can. You're probably not always the best idea to go online and read those, because every time you look up medical advice online, you die of cancer. That's the end result of everything. You either die of cancer. So I'm doing that. I'm getting myself even more freaked out on the way there. I'm just thinking about different things I can do to kind of like make sure he's okay on the ride to the hospital. Like, I'm like, okay, I got to keep him awake. I got to check his pupils before I go there to make sure they're not dilated. I got to ask how many times he threw up. If it's more than one time, then there's a good chance it's a concussion. So I finally get to his school. Like, I fucking get off the train and just bolt. Like, I am like running full speed to his school, and it's far. It's like, it's a good mile or more to his school from the train. So like, I'm tuckered out at this point. And I get there, and right away I'm like, how many times has he thrown up? They're like, he's already thrown up twice. He says his head hurts. He hasn't been able to eat anything since he fell. And he comes to the entrance, the Genkan, where you put down your shoes in Japan, and he looks a little frazzled. He looks like he's weaker than usual. He's got kind of tear stains right here on his eyes, so I know he hasn't been having a good day. But one thing I am kind of surprised by is like there's not like matted hair or anything down. Like, if you crack your skull, it bleeds. You have matted hair from your own blood usually. I mean, I have had friends seriously injure themselves with skateboarding and get concussions. So he doesn't have that though. So I'm like, all right, I guess can you show me like where he bumped his head and stuff? And they're like, he says he bumped it back here, but we're having trouble like finding the bump because his hair is kind of long, and my son's hair is a little bit, kind of long and layered. So I understand. I'm like, all right, they don't have time to look for this stuff, and they're not trying to play doctor. So I just got to pick him up and I got to put him on the bike, and I start wheeling it. I got to wheel it as fast as I can, even though you still got to be safe. I don't want him to fall again off the bike and get a second concussion or whatever. I don't know. I'm just panicking, dude. Like, I'm obeying all the traffic laws. I'm being very safe because I don't want to make the situation worse. But inside, my heart is going like a million miles a second. Like, I am just fucking dying. And even now, like, as I'm telling it, like, my voice is breaking up because, like, I'm almost, like, crying, like, as I'm taking my kid to the hospital. And so I get there, and right away, like, he seems like he's pretty good. Like, I'm asking him some questions, like, how you feeling? He's like, I'm not sleepy. And I'm like, well, what about your head? Does your head hurt? And he's like, no, not really. And I'm like, well, what about, like, do you feel like you're going to throw up again? He's like, no, not really. I'm like, all right. He's just, really, really tough guy. Like, he's always been a pretty tough kid, so maybe that's what it is. He's just trying to tough it out for dad. That's cool. I appreciate that. But, I got to watch out for this boy. And we get there, and I put down the bike for a second. Before I get him off the bike, I make sure to actually try and check the back of his head to see if I can find, like, where he bumped his head. And I can't find the bump either. I'm like, holy shit, man. Like, I can't find this bump either. Like, they're going to ask me, like, what part of the head to look at. And, like, I'm going to be like, I don't even know. They're going to be like, what the fuck? This guy doesn't even know, like, where his kid hit his head and stuff. And I'm just like, all right, like, we're just going to look together. I'm just going to tell the doctor, like, I've tried to find this, and we're going to have to look and find it together. Because I need to get my kid into the hospital and start getting, the whole waiting room process done, because that takes a while in Japan, too. So I do that. I get him off the bike. I get him in there. I'm sitting down, and he goes to play with the toys, which makes me feel better, because I'm like, all right, like, if he's excited to go play with toys in the waiting room, that means he's not feeling too bad. And I want to keep him awake, because I know that's, like, one of the most important things to do. It keeps a person conscious and stuff, and don't let him sleep. Even if you do let them sleep or something, it's like you got to wake them up every half hour for like 6 hours if they have a concussion. And so I'm reading more of this stuff, trying to like make sure I'm prepared for this, like what I got to do to take care of a kid who's got a concussion after he goes through his treatment in the ER. And finally they call her name. We get in there, and she checks the back of his head. She's like, all right, where is it hurt? And he's like, it doesn't hurt. And she's like, okay, but like, where did you bump your head? And he's like, I don't know, like somewhere back here. And he's 3 years old. He can't give you good answers because he's 3. And she checks. She's like, I can't see anything, Maki. Like what area? Like, can you touch the area? And so he touches like the same kind of area and she checks. She's like, I don't see anything. She's like, did you find anything? And I was like, no, but like I just didn't think I was doing anything right. I just thought I'm dumb at trying to find like I said keiga, which is like an injury. I didn't know the word for bump on your head. And she's like, well, I don't see anything either. And she's like, well, what about your tummy? You said like you threw up twice. And he's like, yeah, my tummy kind of feels bad. And she's like, does it feel bad because like you ate something bad? He's like, well, I kind of ate a lot, and then my throat hurt and I threw up. And she's like, all right, well, let me just check this. And she's like, is it okay if I do like just a swab test? Because in Japan they'll stick a swab down like your throat or your nose to check for viruses and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you do anything. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm not the doctor here. So you just do what you think you need to do. Like, I just sit back and let you take care of my son. I'm just glad I'm in the room with him and he seems to be doing pretty well. So she checks, like, and she puts a swab down his throat, and she puts it through like this, like they've got like a little machine that they like snap this thing into and turn it. It's like a giant Q-tip. It's like the biggest Q-tip you've ever seen. Maki's always really tough too. Like they stick it down his throat, and most kids are like, "Ugh!" and like start crying because it makes you want to gag, dude. I mean, even me as an adult, like they stick it in your nose, and you swear to God they're gonna like poke your brain. And he just is like, and they're like, "Hontoni ganbatte, Maki," and he's just like, whatever. And I'm just like, all right, wow, he took that well. So they check it in the virus machine. I don't know what you call that thing. And he comes back positive for strep throat. And we find out that the reason he was throwing up was because his throat hurt. And like he kind of panicked and threw up the food he was eating because, little kids do that. They swallow food. They're like, oh my God, my throat hurts. Oh, this is coming back up. Blah! And like they puke because little kid, 3. There's nothing wrong with his head. He's not even bumped it hard enough to have a bump. The only reason he's been throwing up is because he has strep throat. And even in Japanese, I think it's like streptococcus is like how they say it. Like they say like the long clinical name in a katakana version. So I know right away what that is, and I'm just like, is that all? That's all? And she's like, yeah, there's nothing. Like, he never bumped his head. Like, she was like, here, go ahead, check out his pupils. Like, totally okay. The back of the head, there's no bruise at all. Like, he doesn't have any nosebleeds. Like, he doesn't have like bruises under his eyes or a swelling behind his ear or anything like that. She's like, he's fine. Like, he's gonna be fine. He's not sleepy or anything like that. And if he is sleepy, it's because he's fighting strep throat. So I went from brain hemorrhage to a kid with a sore throat in like a matter of like an hour. And holy shit, dude. Talk about an emotional roller coaster. That was my day, and it's only noon. I'm just happy, man. I'm just happy it turned out to be just a strep throat instead of anything like severe as far as hitting his head. Holy cow, man. I think even now my heart's still like pumping away. Now he's just over here eating candy like a good boy watching some cartoons because I thought like I'm gonna give him the best day ever, like so I already promised him like all this stuff. Like I was like I don't know, like he's gonna have a concussion, I gotta keep him awake, I'm gonna make it like the best time he can have while he's awake. So I just bought him all this candy and like let him watch cartoons and everything. Something I don't normally let him have like a lot of candy. I mean, his mom's a dentist, so of course. But I just thought I'd share that guy with you guys because it's kind of like definitely a situation where you need to vent, or like you need to like be like, okay, that was semi-traumatic, I need to share it with someone. So guys, there's my Unrestology for today, a little story in the life of Unrested and his brain hemorrhage reduced down to a sore throat on his child. Be safe and have fun, and hope you had a good golden week, and I'll talk to you next time. Have a good one, guys.